Iku mau mau, iku lah. Iku mau mau, iku hulu hulu ikala na vau. Iku lah. Iku la na vau. Iku lah. Iku lah.
Aloha no, Michael KUMU Mike Lee, Native Hawaiian cultural practitioner. I'm here today in Maui and Wailuku to tell you why the Royal Commission is the most colossal, worst idea in the history of the Hawaiian people. They're actually this Royal Commission has been brought about because of the failure of the Akaka Bill for all these years. Now, let me get you some histrionics on this so people can understand what this is all about. Because the Kue Partition stopped in 1899 the annexation of Hawaii, the United States has no legal just cause to proclaim Hawaii as a state or a territory. It's an occupied territory. Let me tell you, in the history of Europe, you start with Russia that has just a small piece of land. And how do they expand over 25 time zones? It's because they conquered their neighbors. And that's called spoils of war. Okay, so if you attack like the Native Americans when the Europeans came over from Europe, Columbus, and then the French and the British, what did they do? They came into native people's lands, then they declared war on them, and then they took those lands, spoils of war. We remember the American Indian War, the March of 1,000 Tears. Now, can you imagine, because the Akaka Bill didn't work and they don't have, the reason for the Akaka Bill is the Hawaiians never gave over their land or their rights to this occupying power. And this is another attempt for the Hawaiians to give up their lands and rights, which they're not aware they have. When Kamehameha III created what is called the Allodial in Western law, forever in perpetuity, he gave the KANAIOLOWALU ana Allodial. Now, if you try to look this up in any American dictionary, you'll never find it. Why? They don't want you to know what your rights are. Okay? You'd have to go on a Google search to find the word allodial. And what does allodial mean? It means higher than freehold or fee simple. Most people know about fee simple land, and most Hawaiians think that all land in Hawaii is fee simple. It is not. The KANAIOLOWALU were given by the king. The king said this: I got the land from my father, Kamehameha I. And all this land in the archipelago, it's up to me to establish who I give it out to. Now, people who are in the Kingdom of Hawaii, if you're not KANAIOLOWALU of the blood, you get what is called freehold or fee simple less than allodial. Remember Robin Hood? Remember Little John and the evil King John? Well, you know, when in Europe, the kings had loyal lords and barons. When they went to war with the king and they won, the king would give them an allodial title and make them the lord of the land. Well, that's what Kamehameha III did to all the KANAIOLOWALU. He made you lord of the land. And what does that mean? It means forever, you never lose the land. Now, most KANAIOLOWALU never knew that. Why? It was never explained to them. Okay, it was never explained that, okay, when the Great Mahele started in 1846 through the Land Commission Awards, they had to prove how did they get the land. And then the king would say ana Allodial on the title and put the Kanaka, and he said the rights are reserved to the native tenant. All your rights of gathering wood, gathering limu, gathering whatever you needed for your subsistency is forever on your title. Now, what Hawaiians don't understand is when Grandpa, quote unquote, sold a portion of that land or sold title, it's called a warranty deed or a deed to someone else, guess what? This is the part Hawaiians never understood. When Grandpa dies, it comes back to the family. You never lose it. Higher than fee simple or freehold, remember? Higher. The reason why they gave non-Hawaiians fee simple is if they stepped out of line in the kingdom or did anything against the king or the kingdom, the king could take it back. Okay, but the king secured for his Hawaiian people never to lose their lands. Guess what, people, Hawaiians, you don't understand that, because if you do, under the occupying forces, the Americans, in their own land court, that's where you go to push these rights. It says that there is no statute of limitations on fraud. Remember what I said on fraud? This whole thing is a fraud. The fact that there is no mechanism for the United States to hold this land because we never gave it over to them. Now, this is another thing that's very important that people don't understand. After World War II, remember, England had the colony of India, and they were pushing under Gandhi for their rights to have their country back. Well, decolonization was mandated under the Charter of the United Nations. Well, remember they called us a territory? Okay, how are we a territory when we never said we want to be part of you from the beginning? Texas wanted to be part of the United States. Colorado, Utah wanted to be part of the United States. The Kue petition clearly said that the KANAIOLOWALU, who were the injured party, never wanted to be part of the United States. But no, the Organic Act was passed in 1900, forbidding them to speak Hawaiian, forbidding them to talk about the Queen, or they would go in prison. And the school systems did something called standard American English, the standard English schools, which meant they started putting, you can only speak this, you can only speak that, because they wanted to erase the memory of the Hawaiian people and their cultural identity of who they are, where they came from. Why? Because remember, in 1893, when the Queen temporarily, and the word is temporarily, put the cards on the table, you have to remember what was happening. The Hawaiian people had 96% literacy in 2 languages, and they could write and read in 2 languages, Hawaiian and English. There were no homeless Hawaiians anywhere. There were no laws about you couldn't sleep on the beach. Now, under this occupation, illiteracy is so high, cultural rights were, cultural memory of their culture has been systematically tried to be wiped out to make you part of the apple pie. We were never part of the apple pie, because when a Hawaiian moves away, now here's a little unknown fact, probably 2010 census. 250,000 Hawaiians reside in the state of Hawaii. 250,000 Hawaiians reside abroad or in the United States for economic reasons or quote-unquote prosperity. So basically, the Hawaiian people, in the displacement of it, they don't know their rights. Now, I talked about allodial titles. Most people should go to the land court, should go to the Bureau of Conveyances and the archives to get all your documents together. And when you get them together, you have them certified and stamped and sealed. What people don't know is in the Bureau of Conveyances, they always say when you're putting the seal on your tutus, deeds and everything, they say, oh, write down the page number. You do that, you deface the document, it's inadmissible in court. They do it regularly to cut your rights down because they know that they're stopping you from what you're trying to accomplish. So this is called in the weeds, okay? Now, getting back to the Royal Commission. The Royal Commission is trying to turn you into 4th-class citizens under their rules, under the Department of the Interior. And if you look at the history, look how good they were to the Indians. They kept on pushing them into the most barren, bleak deserts till they found uranium, gold, and silver, and they wanted to push them even more. And that's where you want to go. That's the deal they're offering you under the Royal Commission. Isn't that a sweet deal? Didn't you want to become an American Indian for their reservations that are the poorest of the entire world? That's the sweetheart deal they're setting up for you because of ignorance. And if you buy into this, you're buying into subjugating yourself when the kingdom is still here. And you're going from landlords to fourth-class citizens as nothing muffins. And that's what you do when you sign up for the Royal Commission. And if you're not aware of it, you're ignoring the facts. You're willfully ignoring your rights under international law. Keanu Sai's grievances that have gone to the World Court of crimes against humanity for what has been done by district court judges that have basically what people don't understand, because the United States can't legally have really judges here because under the supremacy clause of their Constitution, Article 6, Section 2, they have no right to do any of this. So what they did is, and most people don't know this, they claimed we're all dead. We're actually living zombies. And what they did was cap all of our names in law. Now, if you don't know what that means in law, because you're not an attorney, it means you're dead. And guess what? If you're KANAIOLOWALU, you're dead in their eyes. Now, why did they want you to be dead? Because they incorporated us. Notice, again, when I said they had to decolonize, well, when it came to Hawaii, we should have had three choices. Do you want to be part of the state? Okay? Do you want to be a territory, or do you want disassociation completely, okay, and go back to the kingdom? But what did they do? In fact, they violated what the UN Charter mandated. There was no choice for the Hawaiian people. Why? Because they allowed military to vote. They allowed non-Hawaiian people of the kingdom who are the injured party. Again, you have to be a legal scholar to understand this. To mitigate an injury, you have to deal with the people who are injured. So they allowed a lot of people from the mainland to come here, take residency, who are not the injured KANAIOLOWALU. They allowed military to vote. The KANAIOLOWALU, a great portion said no, the injured party, and they said, go right ahead. All these people said yes. Was it the injured party? No. Did they have violated the mandate of the UN Charter? Yes. And so they pushed the fake state. And we know it's a fake state because when you look in the preamble of all the other 49 states, they don't have trust. You notice this is a trust. Why is it a trust? Because you're dead. You're the walking zombies. Remember when I said legally it's all capped? Well, you don't know it, but you're the living dead. And who is the trustee or the fiduciary? The federal government, who has no rights under any articles that you, the KANAIOLOWALU, signed your rights over to them. They're declaring that this is a giant bishop estate and you're the living dead people like Bernice Pauahi Bishop, except you're alive, but you're dead. So how do you remedy this situation in law? Well, most people know in Hawaii, if you want to get a passport, a U.S. passport, you go to the Prince Kuhio building to get your U.S. passport. But there's a world passport there, where the world will recognize you. And what does that mean? You know, they've been doing it, this shell game of being a dead person for a long time. So in Spain in 1666, they passed what was called the Law of Seteki. I am a living person. Get it, United States? I'm alive. You cannot claim me as dead. So if you get a world passport for about $200, the world says you're alive. So when you get your paperwork together for the deeds, for your royal patent that says Ana Allodial title, and your genealogy, birth certificates, marriage certificates, death certificates, all certified, you come in with that passport and they can't play around you as, hey, you're a zombie. We control all the zombies here, by the way, because you're a captain. You bring that, I am a living person. Law of Seteki, 1666 in Spain. World Court. They can't fool around. They have to recognize you as a living person. And as a living person, this particular entity that they've created, kind of like a little banana republic, sugarcane corporate. This is a corporation. Remember the Corp Council that they use all the time? The police are really corporate security forces. They don't have right of law. Why do I say that? Because in the federal documents, they say that where the district for the federal court is in the Marshall Islands. Why? Because they know they have no document or arm that gives them the right to be here. Remember what I said about the 50 states? They all invited it. Come, please, we want you. We want to be a part of the United States. That, remember Kue petition? Get away, get away. We don't want to be part of the United States. Now, why did the United States do this? For commerce and trade is one reason, but it's always been for security. We're the buffer force. Do you realize, zombie Hawaiians, that we are the wall to defend the mainland? That's what SDI is all about, using our sacred mountains hidden below them, our secret bases on our highest mountains for SDI against China and North Korea. We are the giveaway. Same thing with the GMOs. If something goes wrong, we're thousands of miles away. So you sacrifice us, that's it. So we are the living zombies. Don't you get it? We are the living zombies. Until you take your life back, you're a zombie.
If anybody would like to know any more from you, how can they get in touch with you?
keakuaskahu@yahoo.com.
And your name again?
Michael Kumu Kau Ohali. Mahalo.
Iku mau mau. Ikua. Iku mau mau. Iku hulu hulu ikala na vau. Ikua. Ikula na vau. Ikua. Ikua.
Hulu ikala na vau.
Ikua.
Ikula na vau.
Ikua. Ikua uki. Ikua ko. Ikua mau. Mau kai hulu. Eu ke kuya.
Iku mau mau.
Ikua.
Iku mau mau. Iku hulu ikala na vau.
Ikua.
Ikula na vau.
Ikua. Ikua uki. Ikua ko. Ikua mau. Mau kai hulu. Eu ke kuya. Mau kau kau. Ai. Ku e pa.